There are a plethora of monsters inside of REPO that will either make your skin crawl or just make you extremely uncomfortable as you scream and run away, which you'll learn is the wrong thing to do. This is going to be the first guide in a several-part series because there are a lot of monsters and I want to cover them in depth because, for the love of God, they are difficult on some of the levels. We are going to start with the level 1 monsters inside of REPO, what they do, and how to attempt to counter them. Every single monster in REPO has a different set of behaviors and things that they will do to make your life miserable as you traverse the levels in an attempt to gather items to acquire currency for the Taxman. Every single monster will fall under one of 3 different level categories. Level 1 is going to be the Peeper, the Shadow Child, Gnomes, Apex Predator, and Spewer. We're going to start with the Peeper first, and that's because it's one of the first monsters that I encountered inside of REPO. The Peeper is basically a giant eyeball that sits on a ceiling somewhere, and in order to get away from it, you need to break its line of sight or it's going to keep drawing you in and doing damage consistently until you die. I died from this Peeper more times than I would like to admit, and I did not understand why because it just kept pulling me in and I couldn't move my camera. So one of the things that it does is stops you from being able to move your camera, which is quite annoying. Your best bet to take on this Peeper eyeball is to just back away and attempt to line of sight it by going behind a bookshelf or walking out of a door and going next to the door frame. That is your best way to get away from the Peeper. It's pretty straightforward, and this is a very simple enemy inside of REPO to deal with. Of course, they do disappear after just a few seconds. I think it's after you break line of sight they disappear. I haven't really tested that in depth, but that's what I've noticed thus far. Next is the Shadow Child, the stuff of nightmares, the 6-armed, terrifying thing that lurks around the corner. The Shadow Child is also a level 1 monster that is extremely tall and has the face of a baby. It will teleport near you, either behind doorways or somewhere extremely close to you, and then laugh like a child. When you look at it, the arms get really, really big, and then it will start to jump forward at you and do damage. After it does that initial damage to you, though, it does despawn, but if you just kind of leave it alone for long enough, it will teleport to another area of the map only to do this to you again. You are going to think of this Shadow Child like you would an Enderman in Minecraft. Don't look at it. Do not look at it. Pretend it's not there and just try to walk away. Just when you look at it, it's going to lunge at you and take that tick away damage that 30 damage is going to do before it disappears. So the best bet is to just try not to look at it. I know that that's difficult, but just think of it like an Enderman in Minecraft and you should be able to get by. Also, any valuable item, even the smallest of things like an ocarina that you'll find in there, can stun the Shadow Child if they happen to run into it. Now, of course, it's going to make that item lose value, but I guess it kind of is a win-win because then you don't take that damage. I don't think, at least from my testing, it bonks into the item before it bonks into you, and then you are able to get away from it. The next enemy that we're going to discuss is the Gnome, and these are probably the most obnoxious little things that exist inside of this game, except for one other one, which I'm going to cover in a minute. But these have to be one of the most obnoxious things because they travel in packs, and they just keep coming and attacking and breaking your items. That's their favorite thing to do, is attack your items and make them lose value, which, as you know, is extremely annoying. They will always spawn in groups of 4, and while they're roaming around, they will stop at random spots when they are grouped up with other gnomes in the level, and when they spot you, they will immediately attack you as well as your valuable items. They will then chase you if there are no nearby valuables. They will just continuously chase you until they track you down like a wild pack of wolves. These gnomes, though, come with a very cool way of defeating them, and that is simply by picking them up and smashing them into a billion pieces on the floor or ceiling or wall around you. As you progress and constantly have to redo levels over and over and over again, and these little gnomes just are biting at your feet trying to attack you consistently, smashing them to a billion bits is extremely satisfying after a long time of being frustrated from not being able to make it through a level or not having enough money to buy health packs after a level. You definitely have just a sense of satisfaction for absolutely obliterating these things when you come into contact with them. They are also willing to jump off of a cliff for a valuable item, so if you throw something into a pit or into just the abyss of nothing, they will chase after it. So that's another way to do that, is to just throw a valuable item overboard, basically, and they will chase it and fall to their death, which is also kind of annoying because now you lost an item, but at least you killed the gnome. Another way to deal with them is jumping backwards. From what I've noticed, if you jump backwards, it's harder for them to hit you because their attack is kind of slow. So if you just jump backward, they will not be able to hit you as often because they do take a chunk of damage. And since there's 4 of them, you're going to be bombarded very quickly if you do not smash them and get away. Next up is one of the ones that at first I thought was just like a silly little thing that they added to the game to make it more immersive and fun, until I made the crucial mistake of attempting to interact with this monster. And that is the apex predator. Now you would think that this is going to be some terrifying, monstrous, horrific entity that lurks in REPO, but it's not. It is the cutest little ducky that you have ever seen in your entire life. He's got these big, giant, adorable eyeballs. Let's go with that. And he just looks at you in the sweetest way possible while making quacking sounds, and he follows you around consistently. Now, this is where I made my crucial mistake. I wasn't attempting to make contact with the apex predator little ducky that follows you around. I was attempting to grab an item, and he jumped up in front of the item, and it made me click on him, which then turned him into a disgusting, bloodthirsty, horrific monster that two-tapped me instantly. I was dead. I was already low health, so I kind of blame myself for that, but either way, he is extremely annoying. They are small, they are very innocent looking, and once they spot you, they are going to follow you constantly and attempt to stay in your line of sight. If the player looks up or jumps, the duck jumps in front of you, just like I mentioned, in order to maintain visibility and make eye contact basically the entire time. If grabbed or damaged by anything, this little ducky will become enraged and have a billion teeth inside of his mouth that are ready to completely thrash you to pieces on a moment's notice. Once this duck starts chasing you, the only way to get away from it is by outrunning it. You cannot hide from it. It will find you. You cannot push it into a cabinet. It will get out. And you cannot push it into a pit because it will just fly back up. It's a duck. Now, one of the funnier ways of dealing with this duck is by putting it into a toilet and flushing, apparently. I've never tried that, but that is a way that I have heard works to get rid of it. And also by putting it inside of a cauldron. I have not been able to lure this thing into a cauldron. I have tried. When I picked it up, it immediately killed me. So I think that you have to bait it into one of these places like a toilet or a cauldron in order for it to get killed, but that is just not something that I was able to do. We just outran it. Once we noticed that it was chasing us, we outran it, or we did everything in our power not to touch the duckling the entire time that we were being followed by it. You can also stun the duckling by doing the tumble launch jump into it, and that will stun it for a few seconds and will also do 15 damage to it. The duck can also be crushed by an extraction point, which I have done, but the issue is that it seems to respawn almost instantly if you have multiple extraction points. So it does work if you only have one extraction point to get rid of it, but from my testing, it came back almost immediately once the next round started, so that really did nothing. If you have a gun, you can also take out the duck, but that kind of works with everything. Any weapon, you can just beat the crap out of this duck and it will end up dying and going away. And the last level 1 enemy inside of REPO is the Spewer. Now, you've probably already come into contact with one and know exactly what I'm about to say. It's hilarious. I don't care how angry and aggressive it is, they are just flat out funny. They launch onto your face and make you spew this nasty green bile all over your friends, but it's extremely funny, and it also changes their in-game voice when you're using in-game voice chat, which just adds another layer of hilarity to this already extremely funny and engaging title. Spewers are level 1 monsters that will float around until you make contact with them, but once they make contact with you, they will move towards you and try to attach to your face. Your voice gets deeper, as I said, and they will occasionally vomit, dealing damage to anything it hits. See, I never noticed that part of this. I did not notice that it would deal damage in my testing, but apparently if you vomit on your friends, you could kill them, so don't do that. If it doesn't attack your face almost instantaneously, like a bloodthirsty leech, it will spew vomit towards you and do a good amount of damage, which we learned the hard way while playing this game. One of the easiest ways to fend off a spewer is by grabbing it when it's lunging towards you and pushing it. Regardless of how much strength you have, you can push it away consistently to where it cannot get to your face or it cannot reach you to spew bile onto you. Now, they can also, like I said, attach to your face, and once they do, it lasts usually between 10 seconds and a minute. It kind of varies, but they can also be stunned by any valuable that you have. So any kind of small valuable, large valuable, doesn't matter. You can throw it into their eyeballs and it will stun them and then pick them up and smash them around, or you can beat them with a baseball bat, which the baseball bat is an extremely fun weapon to use. If you haven't tried it yet, you should. Now, another cool thing about the Spewer is that even though they do attach to your face and they deal damage to your friends, they can also deal damage to enemies. So if you do have one attached to your face, there's really nothing you can do about it. You can't do anything to get it off, so you should just enjoy it while it's happening and maybe use it to your advantage by spewing bile onto the other repulsive things that live within REPO. That's going to do it for this guide on the level 1 monsters inside of REPO and how to deal with them. As always, if you like the video, then like the video. And if you like my content in general, then please subscribe to my channel because it means the world to me. And I will see you in the next one. Bye!